This election, the election of 2020 that took place on November 3rd, has been incredibly revelatory. It's been very, very interesting. I already talked about, some of the grifting elements of the right that have revealed themselves to the world who they really are. A lot of these fakes, a lot of these tryhards, a lot of these talentless losers who rode the coattails of the president, who rode this wave of populism. They were never really true believers or America firsters. They were just out to make money and make a name for themselves and pretend to always be correct when they really weren't. Like, a lot of these people have ended up turning their backs on the president. People like Mike Cernovich, largely because Mike Cernovich is kind of a weird guy. He's an imbalanced individual. He's not a sane person. He's got a lot of mental issues. And, he's like whining and crying the other day that him and his boys, they were ignored by the Trump administration. He didn't offer them jobs. He didn't take them seriously. And it's like, who would? Like, you would be impossible to work with. And I stated, like, you're an imbalanced individual. You flip-flop harder than Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden in the last 2 weeks. It's like, oh, we're going to have lockdowns. Oh, we're not going to have lockdowns. And, oh, we're going to do this. Now we're not going to do that. And so on and so forth. But nonetheless, it's like, this is an unreliable individual. And it's like, who would want to work with you, dude? Like, you seem like the kind of guy that would not pass a probationary period at some high-end, high-paying corporate job just because he's so difficult to work with. That's the kind of person Mike Cernovich is. Total weirdo, total creep. And of course, he also has these creepy statements that he's made in the past. Regardless whether you believe that he meant them or not is beyond. It's not the point. He's made these statements, and it doesn't look good. And a lot of people don't want anything to do with him because of it. And I understand him being salty and fake, but enough about people like him and Jack Posobiec, another fucking fake douchebag, another one of these grifting types. And it's like, they'll promote themselves, they'll make a little bit of money, they'll get the clicks, the views, and whatnot. But as soon as some bad news hits about Trump, then they're gonna turn their backs and start shitting on him. It's like, oh well, he wasn't nice enough to white men and all this other nonsense. They don't know what they're talking about. Again, they're just grifters, right? And the wave of populism, and a lot of us are gonna abandon them, me included. Some of them have already blocked me. I think that's a badge of honor. But this isn't about them. It's not about the grifters. It's about people who actually know what they're talking about. Smart individuals, people that I used to look up to, members of the intellectual dark web, or I like to call them the intellectual dork web, total dorks. Insanely smart people, but they're partisan hacks. And in the past, in the very recent past, prior to this election, they passed themselves off as sensible individuals who are capable of having an intelligent discussion, a sober discussion with anybody, regardless of what they believed in politically. And now that seems they've completely seemed to have dispensed with this, and their partisanship is on full display for the world to see, along with their hypocrisy, which is really what I want to focus on. Their hypocrisy is absolutely offensive to my intelligence. It's absolutely offensive to me as a former fan of members of the intellectual dork web. And I'm also going to go ahead and throw in some members of the skeptic community. Granted, they're not intellectuals; they're pseudo-intellectuals. They're not that smart. They're even less talented than some of the people that I talked about, these grifters on the right. But nonetheless, they like to pass themselves off as like these smarty pants kind of people, but they're not. But some of the members, some of the key members of the IDW, I don't know why they call it. I guess it sounds spooky and cool, so they call themselves the IDW, intellectual dork web. They, some of the members, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, the Weinstein brothers, who I absolutely do not trust. I do not trust the Weinstein brothers. They are never to be trusted. All these people are hypocrites. All these people are liars. All these people are not to be trusted, and they're partisan hacks, and their partisanship has completely eroded any credibility that they had, especially more so in regards to having an intelligent, sane, fair, fruitful discussion. And it's just not going to happen. Just look at how hysterical people like Phil Mason, the scientists on YouTube, or Thunderfoot, or people like Richard Dawkins are reacting. But what I find most interesting is the hypocrisy, because I remember not long ago in 2018, Christine Blasey Ford, along with a whole slew of other women, they've come forward to suggest or claim that Brett Kavanaugh nearly killed them. Or Christine Blasey Ford says she nearly died having an interaction with Brett Kavanaugh. Some of these women claim that they were brutally raped and that they were drugged. Brett Kavanaugh engaged in gang rapes. They brought forth these accusations, not in the court of law, not in a police statement, but they brought these claims before a Senate hearing to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. That is not the venue to do this, but they saw the need to do it because it was their patriotic duty, and they made statements under penalty of perjury, and that was enough evidence to completely disregard Brett Kavanaugh as a candidate for this seat in the Supreme Court. Very interesting. Very interesting. Uh, I at the time stated that I need concrete, tangible evidence that a crime even took place. Her statements do not suggest that a crime took place. Now, some of the to counter that statement from members of the left would say, oh well, the statement under penalty of perjury, that is evidence. The statement that she made, the affidavits, etc. etc. This is evidence. Maybe so, but I'm not convinced. And if it is, if this is enough, if this is sufficient for people to pass judgment onto Brett Kavanaugh, why didn't she go to the police? I recall, and somebody can go ahead and fact check me on this. I'm too lazy to look up the article, but I recall individuals from a specific police department where these alleged crimes took place. They're like, Christine Blasey Ford, we're ready for you. Come on down. Let's get her police report. Let's get the facts out there, and let's pursue this thing. Nobody was interested in doing that. Nobody was interested in seeking legal remedies or seeking the truth in the court of law before a jury, their peers, and before a judge. They just wanted to dispense with Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. They wanted to stick the middle finger to the President of the United States in 2018 during the midterm elections because they were under the impression that they would probably, or they were going to attempt to take the Senate. And then, of course, they would just prevent Trump from ever getting a Supreme Court justice. So this is what they were trying to do. And it failed. But again, the core claim was, oh, well, we need to believe this woman because she made credible claims against Brett Kavanaugh. And the claims were made under penalty of perjury. So they extend that courtesy to Christine Blasey Ford and the other idiot women, many of whom were confirmed liars. They extend that courtesy to them. But they will not extend it to the hundreds, possibly thousands of Americans who have filed statements, affidavits under penalty of perjury that election fraud took place, that they were instructed to engage in illegality during the election process during the November 3rd election, the general election here in the United States. They don't extend that courtesy to them. Why not? Shouldn't we allow them to have their day in court? And a lot of these people are going through the courts. Granted, a handful of them aren't successful because there's not enough sufficient evidence, and I don't want to get into that. But there is the statements that were made. There are videos. There are people that had recorded, documented instances of illegality that's taken place in some of the polling sites, that's taken place in some of these election departments, that's taken place at the Postal Service offices, in these sorting centers, etc., etc. And it's just like, and they want to completely discard all that. It's like, well, here we have tangible, concrete evidence. We have these sworn statements that are made under penalty of perjury. We have videos of these election workers boarding up windows, preventing people from meaningfully observing and examining the materials that's going through the hands of some of these people that are counting the ballots. Why are they all of a sudden skeptical of the claims being made in 2020, and they're not, but they weren't just 2 years ago as of making this video? That is what I call glaring, disgusting hypocrisy. There's here's the thing. Mentioned earlier that there wasn't enough stuff, the claims that were made. Like, here's the thing. If you witness illegality or abnormalities in a county center or at one of these election departments, you have to go through the appropriate channels. You got to report it. You got to make a big stink about it. It's got to be official before you start seeking remedies through the court. It's one of the reasons why a lot of these things are being struck down. But a lot of the court cases, they're not being brought before Trump. So a lot of these intellectual dork web people, they're saying, oh, well, Trump lost like 30 lawsuits. 30 of his suits were struck down already. Well, no, that's not accurate at all. They're being completely dishonest, and they're completely lying and misrepresenting a lot of the claims that are being brought forth by Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, etc., etc. And they can't even be honest about the claims that are being brought forth by private citizens who were more involved in the process than a lot of these intellectual dork web types. So I find it incredibly hypocritical. I find it incredibly interesting, and I can't help but think that the reason why they're behaving so erratically is because of the results of the election. And because so many of us are firm in stating, without, being doubtful of the claim, that this election is bullshit. I don't accept the results of the election. I was monitoring this thing in real time. Something happened, and I'm not going to be engaging in wacky conspiracy theories about, hammer and scorecard or what was the other one? Radioactive isotopes and watermarks. I just want a fair and meaningful audit of the count, a recanvassing, and genuine recounting of the ballots. The process needs to be transparent. I will accept that maybe no fraud of any kind took place. And it was just gross incompetence because government workers are generally lazy and stupid and don't know what the hell they're doing. I would know. I used to work for the government. And it was just a mistake. Grave mistakes were made, or maybe the systems that are in place to put on the election just failed. I'm totally open minded to that possibility, and it had nothing to do with fraud. But I just want to, for there to be transparency and fairness throughout this process, so everybody is, has faith in future elections, and hopefully have meaningful reform to prevent the nightmare that all Americans appear to be going through at the time. But the modern left, the intellectual dork web, does not seem interested in seeing that point of view. They just want to, dunk on conservatives, dunk on Christians, post these cringy boomer memes. The intellectual dork web is not known for having a funny bone, except the one rammed up their ass. Nonetheless, I find it absolutely hilarious that you have these incredibly smart people that know better. They're smarter than everybody else. That's why they're members of the intellectual dork web, right? And they're of the belief that creepy, sleepy Joseph Biden won this election convincingly. Well, they certainly don't act like it. If you genuinely won this election, or if your guy won the election, you're super convinced of it. Why do you care if people like me, why are you so hell-bent if people like me are fighting tooth and nail to assist the President of the United States and to spread awareness about the election abnormalities that took place on November 3rd. If we're such goofballs, if we're crying all the time, if, it's like, well, why even bother? Like the last 4 years, people were crying about the Russian interference, the collusion, all this other cringy nonsense, the Mueller Russia investigation, all of which produced none of the results that they advertised that it would produce. But nonetheless, it's like I wasn't crying or whining, about the possibility of Trump being removed from office. Well, what I knew that he wouldn't. I knew that what they were trying to do was just, political maneuvering, all of which failed, by the way. It was a really stupid political move, tactical error on their part. But nonetheless, I wasn't like, oh my God, like my hands, like I'm on, like my hair's on fire, screaming at people to stop trying to, force this impeachment nonsense, this impeachment narrative onto the rest of us, because we were on the winning side. We were going to come out on top of that, and we did. I wasn't concerned about it. I wasn't worried about it. But they don't feel the need to. They certainly don't feel that way themselves in regards to the November 3rd election. It's like, well, if you guys won, like, why do you care what people say or think? Just leave us alone. But they're not going to do that, because I don't even genuinely believe that they think the results happened exactly as advertised by the legacy media, the lying press. Funny how all that works. Well, anyways, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the hypocrisy of the intellectual dork web. These people are absolutely pathetic, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I used to look up to a lot of these people. But when it comes to having sober discussions about religion, meditation, certain issues, they're right on the money, man. That's really interesting stuff. But when it comes to politics, none of these people know what the fuck they're talking about. Unlike them, I've actually used to work in this field. I used to work at these election departments. I understand what is going on, and I understand what the president is doing. And of course, I am out here doing my best. One of these ground zeros in the country, doing my best to assist the president. And I think we're going to come out on top of it. I am not rattled at all. I am not concerned at all. The law is on our side. The math is on our side, and God's on our side. Sure, why not? I genuinely do believe that we're the good people. I believe. We're not the party that wants to lock down the entire country and violate people's constitutional and human rights. I'm told that's completely antithetical to everything I believe. I am pro free speech. They want to censor our speech. They want to prevent people from having the conversations that they want to have. It's like they'll allow terrorists on these social media platforms, but if you believe certain things about some group or something, you start citing FBI crime statistics, they'll treat you like like David Duke or something. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. Peace out.